Welcome to Personal Injury Claims Explained by Foyle Legal, your trusted source for personal injury claims in Western Australia. Each week, we simplify complex legal issues, from motor vehicle accidents to workplace injuries, so you can confidently navigate your rights and secure the compensation you deserve.
Ever get that little jolt, when someone rear ends you at a light? Makes you wonder, right? Like, how much damage does that actually do? Get ready to dive deep, because today we're tackling car accident injury claims, and specifically here in WA, the rules, the gotchas, the whole shebang.
Right, and we're lucky enough to be diving into some seriously insightful material from Foyle Legal, those Perth lawyers who seem to know everything about this stuff.
They really do, and honestly, some of the things I learned while prepping for this, total eye-opener, even for someone like me who thinks they've heard it all. For instance, I was assumed, broken bones, major trauma. That's the biggie when it comes to car accident injuries.
Which seems logical. Yeah.
But turns out the most common injury is, get this, whiplash.
Yeah, whiplash. The silent epidemic.
Yeah, whiplash. You hear someone's got it, you might even chuckle a bit like, oh, poor grandma got whiplash again. But it's no joke, is it?
Not even a little bit. People underestimate whiplash, think it's just a stiff neck for a few days, shake it off. But those sudden movements, especially for rear-end collisions, they can wreak havoc on your back, even down into your limbs. It's way more than just your neck.
Okay, so point taken, whiplash is way more serious than I gave it credit for. But what about the truly scary stuff? The kind of injuries that, really upend someone's life?
We're talking head injuries, for sure. Those are often the ones with the highest claims because the impact is so severe and the long-term consequences can be, well, life-altering. But there's another injury, one that often flies under the radar, but it's incredibly common after a car accident.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Hit me with it.
PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Wait, PTSD? From a car accident? Seriously? I always thought of PTSD as something, soldiers experience or people who've lived through some kind of major disaster. Not exactly your average fender bender.
That's a very common misconception. But here's the thing. Trauma is trauma. Our brains, they don't neatly categorize things the way we do. A car accident, even what might seem like a minor one, can be hugely traumatic.
I guess it makes sense when you put it like that sudden loss of control, the feeling of being unsafe, even for a few seconds. It must be jarring.
Exactly. Imagine this, you're driving along, everything's normal, then bam, a loud crash, screeching metal, maybe you're even thrown around a bit. Your body's flooded with adrenaline, your fight or flight response kicks in. That's a highly stressful event, and for some people, that can be the trigger for PTSD.
So we're talking flashbacks of the accident, nightmares, that kind of thing.
Exactly. You relive those terrifying moments, the sights, the sounds, that feeling of impact. It comes back to haunt you even in your sleep. Or you might get panic attacks every time you get behind the wheel again. Or even just see a car coming towards you a little too fast.
Wow, I had no idea it could manifest in so many ways. This is getting pretty intense for something that started with a little fender bender.
It's something that needs to be taken seriously because PTSD from a car accident is very real, it's debilitating, and it can turn someone's life upside down.
Which makes that whole documentation thing even more important, right?
Right.
Because if someone's dealing with these, invisible injuries, they need a way to prove that their experience was real and it's affecting them.
Absolutely. And that's where things can get tricky if you're not prepared. Documentation, especially that police report, is absolutely crucial.
So someone's driving home from work, listening to this, and they're thinking, okay, this is serious stuff, but what does it actually mean for me? What do I do if I need to make a claim here in WA?
You're hitting on a really important point because knowing what to do, especially right after an accident when you might be shaken up, it's crucial. First things first, obviously, if anyone's injured, call for help immediately. But after that initial response, remember, documentation, 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 that's your best friend in this situation.
Documentation. So more than just snapping a few pictures with my phone at the scene.
Pictures can definitely be helpful, but the most important document you need is that police report. I cannot stress this enough. A detailed police report that's like gold when you're making a claim.
Okay, so police report, got it. What else is there?
Next thing you'll want to do is lodge something called a Notice of Intention to Make a Claim form. You'll send this to the Insurance Commission of Western Australia, the ICWA. And you want to do this as soon as practicable after the accident.
All right, as soon as practicable. You know me, I need a hard deadline. What does that actually mean in this context?
It's a little bit of a legal gray area, but generally speaking, you have 3 years from the date of the accident to file a claim here in Western Australia. But here's the thing, the sooner the better. Memories fade, evidence can disappear, and if you wait too long, it can actually weaken your case.
3 years, that seems like a long time, but I guess it flies by, right? So police report, notice of intention, all done quickly. Are we good?
Well, if only it were always that straightforward. That Foyle Legal website you shared, it actually points out some situations where making a claim, it can get a lot more complicated.
Okay, like what? What are some of those red flags people should watch out for?
Hit and run accidents, for one. If you don't know who hit you, it makes filing a claim incredibly tough. Then there are those cases with really serious injuries. Those often come with much higher stakes, and the legal stuff can get way more complicated, especially if there's ongoing medical care, rehabilitation, that kind of thing.
Yeah, those situations, they just sound messy from the get-go. Anything else people should be prepared for?
Oh, absolutely. There are cases where it's not crystal clear who's at fault. Maybe there are conflicting stories from different witnesses, or you've got multiple vehicles involved. Those kinds of situations can turn into a real legal maze. And that's when having a good lawyer on your side becomes absolutely essential.
So basically, if you're in one of those more, legally murky situations, trying to handle it all on your own, probably not the best move.
It's definitely risky. If you're dealing with a car accident claim that's got some twists and turns, especially when there are serious injuries involved or it's not clear who's to blame, getting legal advice early on, it can make a world of difference.
Because at the end of the day, you need someone in your corner who knows the ropes.
Exactly. A good lawyer will fight for your rights, make sure you're gathering the right evidence, and they'll build a strong case for you so you get the best possible outcome.
Which ultimately comes down to getting the support and let's be real, the compensation you deserve. Speaking of compensation, I'm sure folks are wondering, okay, how much are we actually talking about?
$1 million question, right?
Is there like a set formula or something? Like whiplash equals X number of dollars, broken leg equals Y.
If only it were that simple. Unfortunately, there's no one-size-fits-all answer when it comes to compensation, especially for those less tangible things like pain and suffering. Each case is unique.
So how do they even begin to calculate that? What factors determine how much someone might receive?
It's a whole bunch of things. Obviously, the severity of your injuries is a big one, but it goes beyond just the physical. It's about how those injuries impact your life. Can you work? What are your medical expenses going to be? How long until you're back on your feet, so to speak? All of those factors come into play.
So just to play devil's advocate here, a professional athlete who gets injured and can never compete again, they'd likely be looking at a much bigger settlement than, say, someone with a desk job who suffers a similar injury but can go back to work relatively quickly, right?
You're spot on. The courts recognize that pain and suffering, it's not just about physical discomfort. It affects every aspect of your life, and compensation aims to address that broader impact.
This has been eye-opening, to say the least. As we wrap up, is there one key takeaway you want to leave our listeners with?
We've covered a lot of ground today, but if you remember nothing else, remember, this knowledge is power. Just by listening to this deep dive, you're already ahead of the game. You understand how important documentation is and why it's crucial to get legal advice early on, especially if you're ever in a tricky situation.
And it's not about being paranoid or expecting the worst to happen. It's about being prepared, just in case. Because none of us can predict when that fender bender might turn into something much bigger.
Exactly. It's about having the tools and the knowledge to handle whatever comes your way. Hopefully you'll never need it, but if you do, you'll be ready.
And on that note, we'll leave you with this. Think about everything we talked about today. Are you really prepared? Do you have the right insurance coverage? Would you know what to do at the scene of an accident to protect yourself? Take a moment to really consider those questions. Until next time, drive safe out there.
Thanks for tuning in to Personal Injury Claims explained by Foyle Legal. Remember, this podcast is for informational purposes and isn't legal advice. For advice specific to your situation, visit us at Foyle Legal. And don't forget to subscribe or leave a review.